Hello, my soul-seeking friends. It's Shanna. Thank you so much for listening to Sense of Soul podcast. Enlightening conversations with like-minded souls from around the world, sharing their journey of finding their light within, turning pain into purpose, and awakening to their true sense of soul. If you like what you hear, show me some love and rate, like, and subscribe. And consider becoming a Sense of Soul Patreon member, where you will get ad-free episodes, monthly circles, and much more. Now go grab your coffee, open your mind, heart, and soul. It's time to awaken. Today on Sense of Soul, we have the divine union of Íse and Isis. You may have heard Íse on Sense of Soul in prior episodes. He's also known as Kiko Ellsworth. Íse is the founder of the Divine Man Men's Self-Mastery Program. He's also an Emmy Award-winner and international speaker. His beautiful twin flame Isis is a channel to a collective of earth spirits. She deeply aligns in the energies of love, compassion, inner standing, and higher consciousness to honor and support you in your journey. And together, they created the Divine Man channeling experience. Isis and Íse guide this one-of-a-kind interactive experience through storytelling, modeling, and instrumental instruction, wherein men are able to create who they'd like to be in our world as noble men, husbands, fathers, and leaders. Please welcome these beautiful twin flames, Íse and Isis.
Hola, Isis. This is
Hola.
Shanna. Shanna, this is Isis, my wife.
Hi, Shanna.
Twin flame, all that good stuff.
No, a divine partnership. I'm so very happy. Are you not going by Kiko because people wanted to call you Kiko? Is it Íse?
Oh yeah, that was a while ago. Yeah, I totally have changed, migrated, just transformed into my spiritual name, which has been like a 20-year long process. So yeah, I go by Íse, short for Iseluleko, and she goes by Isis, and I still have my company name, Kiko, on my driver's license, but I've given myself my true spiritual name, and through all the work that I've been doing, and she's done the same with herself, but we still keep that identity for just moving in that whole entity of the corporation.
Well, I love that because, in my journey, I had never really connected with like your name before. And then as I went into my spiritual journey, I realized my first name means the possessor of hidden wisdom, and my last name is Vavra. So the Vav in the Hebrew alphabet is the sixth letter of the alphabet. It means connection, the Vav. Mm-hmm. And so it's a unification. And then Ra, of course. So then name, now I even chant my name, my last name.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Oh,
isn't that crazy?
That's hot.
Yeah, so I don't have to change my name now that I am so connected with it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I must have did that before I came here.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like I talk about that all the time. I talk about I think one of the best things I did as a soul is I chose powerful, intuitive women to surround myself with, whether it be like my mother or best friends, and then my other wife, and now my wife, and now my former wife, and my current wife are now like almost best friends or whatever
we
they
are. Not almost best friends. She is my best friend. She is my
I don't know
sister. I'm just being honest.
That was the best thing. That was the best thing I did. That like surround myself by intuitive women, because that's like the best protection, the best guidance. Because I knew I was going to fuck up. I knew I was going to make a mess. But then having women that you could trust to guide you back onto your path as a man was very important for me, as the masculine is trying to regain our consciousness on this planet and our direction.
Which you did. I mean, you and the honor. And I think just the testament to that work is Íse's relation with his former wife, and the fact that we are best friends and she is like my soul sister. It's incredible because they were able to find a really beautiful way to complete their marriage in a way that honored both of them. And that's something that's it feels so out of this world, in today's, modern template of what, divorce or completing a marriage looks like. Like they really upped their game, and it made it really just almost effortless for me to enter the space and to connect with her in a way that benefited all of us, including our children.
So, it's something I've considered lately, and I've had a friend I had her on my podcast talk about this, is, originally when marriage was created, it was not really a beautiful thing for women. It really was a contract you were going to be given to this family, basically, to breed. It really bothered me in many ways. When I learned the true history, which was related to marriage. And when I think about divorce, right, there's all of these things that are connected to that as well. I mean, for instance, I had an aunt who was kicked out of the church for 30 years, because she went through a divorce. How do we change presently and for the future, coming together in a more sacred way, and also knowing when this relationship's no longer serving me, but yet I still love you, and I spent all these years with you when I did love you. And how can we separate consciously and still be respectful and loving?
Yeah, that wasn't my experience growing up with my parents, with the way that they, ended their marriage. So I was extremely guarded. We were about a month into our reconnection, and I came up to visit Issei for my birthday, and Christine came out, and she just had an armful of gifts and this huge hug.
My former wife, Christine.
And it just, the matrix was just exploding all over me. I'm like, what is happening? And from that moment, I really began to see that when we're able to heal and really, I think, put your relation with someone into a new container the way that they did, which was really as brother and sister. And, Issei, you can speak to that if you wish to, but I saw that respect. And I saw that care and the fact that they were still family, but it just looked completely different. The roles were changed.
Yeah. We're still, I think that's a huge thing for the West to learn, right? Is that there's the family element, but then there's the tribal element. And we're learning how to get back as a tribe. And it's just because me and my former wife are not romantic anymore, we're not in that sort of relation anymore, doesn't mean that either one of us leaves the tribe. We still function as a tribe. We still take care of each other. We still have that agape love, that brother-sister love. I still have a duty as a man to take care of my sister and the mother of my child. And I still have honor and morals and values for myself as a man to do the right thing, because I want to have pride in the type of life that I live by the time I look back over my life. So I think that's, at the core, at the foundation of it, to really see that, and this is a part of our men's teachings too, when you see a pretty girl down the street, or when you see your wife, before you see her butt, before you see her breast, before you see her sexually, see your sister first. Train your brain to acknowledge that's my sister first. And then, yeah, she happens to be pretty, and maybe I want to ask her on a date. Yes, but first let me train my brain to see, hey, this is my sister first. And the first thing that I want to do is I want to protect and respect her. Let me just, all right, cool. And then maybe I'll, go to the other aspect of it. But that's a part of the retraining of the masculine here, is to honestly see our sister first, see that agape love, see that platonic love, and to therefore see ourselves as honorable men, and really to remind ourselves who we are before this carnal, material, physical, sometimes we can be lustful body vessel that we're in, controlling our emotions, as opposed to these emotions controlling us and how we behave.
Yeah. The very first night that we didn't even go out on a date. He just came to my home for dinner, and he was spending the night as he was traveling from Southern California to Central California. And
so you already know.
I was looking at the bed. I didn't know what was going to go down. My kids were on a sleepover.
He knew it was going to go down.
I had intentions, but the brother just took me by the face, and he kissed me on the forehead, and he's like, I'm going to sleep on the couch. And I'm like, okay, great. He sleeps on the couch, and the next day I wake up and I look out on the couch and he's sitting there meditating. And I'm like, this brother right here. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, he's just, he was so in this space. And it was a beautiful thing because a few months later, my biological daughter, now our daughter, asked me, she said, so where did Issei sleep?
That was like a couple of days later. We talking about that was right because she spent the night away, and then she literally asked. It was like the next day.
She wanted to know. She's 11. She was 10 at the time, so she was like, "Where did he sleep?" And I could look right at her and say, "On the couch," and it was true. And so, the very beginning of our connection, after we reconnected in this lifetime, it was all about that kind of love, and he put me in this space where he respected me and he started loving me from, you know, from the top down, from my mind, from my spirit, from my soul, from the essence of who I am. And then, you know, the physical connection came later.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's so like imperative. Like I saw her and loved her because, you know, she's my twin flame. But I think for any man in my experience and as women, we learned how to fall in love with each other's soul and to really put that as a priority and how to allow the process to happen, to unfold very, very slowly, as slow as it could be, to enjoy and love aspects of her that came before the sexual stuff. You know, the mind, her desires, her voice, her pains, her traumas, her spiritual connection, her practices, her, you know, what she likes, what she doesn't like, you know, her opinion, you know, what she's hiding, what she's scared of, like all those things that are so important to really have a deeper connection so that when you finally get to the sexual connection, things are really starting to truly open up at the deepest level. So she truly would really want me to penetrate her in every single way, not just with my penis. You know, I've been penetrating her mind, and if she's wanting to receive me in her mind and her spirit and her emotions, because I've invested in that, and that's the most attractive to me. Those things are you know, and I think for a lot of men, we've been, you know, conditioned to think that this is the most important. This is great, but like what's really attractive and really powerful for a man and a woman is the acknowledgement of who we are, like how we intrinsically fit together. Like men and women talk about, well, I don't need a man, I don't need a woman. And it's like, okay, yes and no. No, you don't need a man or a woman to survive, even to thrive and do some great things in your life. Here, the yes, where we do need each other is that there's an interesting dynamic that happens when the yin actually comes back into fusion with the yang. When you have the yin yang together, there is a like indomitable force field, an aura, a chi that's created because these two polarities, the negative and the positive of a battery, when they come together, there's a larger force that neither one of us can create individually.
You had to find that within yourself first.
Absolutely. 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 And so when we come together, like we can go much higher than either one of us could have done separately. You know, so in that way, men and women, like we do need each other. If you want to rise to heights that go beyond what you're personally capable of, you do need your opposite partner. If you only want to go to a certain level, then fine. Yeah, you can do it on your own. But when you go together, it's beyond what any one of us could do individually.
As the earth plane rises and expands in consciousness, you're seeing a lot more twin flames coming together, because when you have that perfect balance of the masculine and the feminine, you have creation. So these balances are being brought to the surface for the express purpose of creation. And that creation can be in whatever modality, you know, it speaks to you and your partner. For us, it's our work together, you know, our practices. And we were both committed to these practices in the solo realm. You know, Issei was doing workshops, he was writing all kinds of curriculum, he was leading, you know, all kinds of seminars,
women's work,
self-defense, everything,
creative work,
so many
as well.
different things. And then for me personally, I was in the space of doing my channeling and medium work, but it was like I was kind of in the closet, so to speak. Like I was very much guarding it. It was very precious. It felt too intimate to bring out with any kind of, I would say, honesty or transparency, because it's a very intimate thing to say, I'm a medium, I'm a channel, I'm receiving information from the other side, and I'm bringing it earthside to these souls. I have clients who are sitting with me and they're getting priceless information about their past lives, their childhoods, things that they're getting stuck with, all of these different aspects, right? So that was my healing modality. But for me, in the feminine, I felt like I couldn't bring that forward without the divine masculine protection. And I could have continued to do it on that smaller scale, which is a beautiful thing. But in past lives, in, all of the different instances where those gifts had come forth, and then I was ostracized, burned at the stake, all those things, like those were actual experiences that I'm sure you're familiar with when women, the female sage is destroyed because the nature of her power. So for me personally, I can say that I needed to have the divine masculine hold that space in the physical and in his vision, in his mind, so that I could relax and say, okay, let's bring these gifts out and let's really serve together the best that we can do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, babe.
And I'm just imagining like the eclipse right now. You guys are like the perfect example of a solar eclipse right now.
It took a lot to get to this.
Yeah.
I know it did. And you know what? Ise's been on twice before, and I definitely recommend, listeners go back and listen to his story and his development over the years. I mean, it's just amazing and beautiful. But, I heard something, and I think Isis, you'll be interested in this. I don't know, maybe you already know this, but I don't know if you know the author of Wheels of Life, Anna Dea Judith. She's wrote a bunch of books, but she had told me that the word virgin is not actually what we know. The original definition of virgin was self-sufficient individual woman, like someone who was standing strong in their own. And so, which is so interesting because it turned into Mother Mary. And but there's so many divine goddesses who also were virgins. Mother Mary, right? And who were self-sufficient. And so for women just coming into this, do you know, someone sent me the other day, it's only been 50 years, I'm almost 50. It's only been 50 years since women have been able to get credit without a man's signature.
Wow.
I mean,
yeah.
So this is something we are just adapting to, coming into our own, using our voice and feeling comfortable and even our sacredness, even in our divinity, as you were.
It's been a long time, and y'all used to run the world, and we used to honor and revere you. We used to praise and have statues and sacred figures of the divine feminine, because you're so powerful. You're so powerful. I can acknowledge that you have a power that we men don't have. And some men will hear this and be like, well, what you talking? Like, that's the part that caused the problem, is our ego, the part that actually gets either offended or the part that actually gets insecure about when I say that a woman has a power that a man doesn't have. That doesn't mean that we're weaker. It doesn't mean that it doesn't mean any of that stuff. It just is, it's just acknowledging the truth, really. You are the portal of life. You literally are the portal, the channel, the channel by which souls can come from another dimension, fifth dimension, and come into the third dimension. That needs to be honored, protected, and respected. Flat out. You are the portal. So it's very natural for a woman to be a channel and to get messages as well. You guys are delivering souls, so why not get messages as well? You are intrinsically connected to the divine. And if I was the creator in its entirety, I'd say, okay, well, you're going to have a special power because you literally are the first protector of life, the deliverer of life, the first protector of life. I'm going to give you a power that nobody has because you have a very special mission. And then my job is to protect you. That's honorable. And a lot of men have lost their fucking honor. Their minds are scrambled. We don't know who they are. They're distracted with this, distracted with that, distracted by trying to get a woman, trying to get likes, trying to get the money, and I'm not saying those things are not, but like that, those are not the priority. Like it's in time in this era for us as men to remember who we are and to lead a life that we can be proud of. So when we're done, we look back. It's like, I'm proud of the choices. I'm proud of my mistakes. And I'm proud of how I cleaned up my mistakes and got my ass on my track and got myself going. And what I learned because I made my mistakes and what I taught because I taught from those mistakes, that's the wisdom that I gave to the world. Like us men, that's the type of life that we all want to live. Each man has different mistakes, different, messes, different things, different wisdom to pull from, to teach so he can, live an honorable life, so he can contribute. So, and I think it's just, and that one of that first to remember that our duty is to protect and respect you and to lead properly. And the divine family is key. The divine family is the top of the food chain, if you will. It's the mother and the father and the child. It's the mother and the father and the child, because without the mother and the father, the child, nobody will be here. Everyone came into conception by a mother and a father, and then there's the child. That is to be protected and respected as the top, because that's how the billions and billions, all of human life since the very beginning has gotten here. And right now it's like the attack on the family. It's like, oh, this that we're just giving honor and protection to the divine family, because that is the way forward, I believe, throughout eternity, to be able to secure human life on this planet in whatever dimension, is that masculine, feminine, mother, father, child, and bringing balance. And so,
oh my God, I love you, Isis. You're a lucky lady, right? But that divine family is such a big part of my journey, because Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Are you kidding me? It is Father, Mother, right? And then Son. The fact that that's been taken out and it's just coming to surface now that we're reclaiming this, so we can actually have a new foundation built on something that is equal and just. We're out of balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only problem.
And I'd love to jump back to, what you're talking about, Shanna, as far as the balance and, and then me being lucky. And I love that you say that, but at the same time, I think what's even a bigger takeaway is the idea that it's actually possible that men are coming into this renaissance of their mind. They're rebirthing themselves. And, there's been so much like distraction, and they're full-blown assaults upon the male mind. When you look at the advertising, the music, the idea that, to surround themselves with a bevy of women, and then the women see themselves, they're now attacked because they're made something, they're just made a body. It's like really
image and pornography. To see a woman as a piece of meat or something that you use for the receptacle or the thing that's supposed to hold a man's semen. Mm-hmm. What you go for. And to have these women around you, that's the assault upon the mind of the man, first of all, because if he starts to see a woman in that degraded way, that's him also seeing himself in a degraded way.
And then we ourselves as women, if we don't have someone, for example, like Ise, or the other divine men that we may be in contact with, how are we to know it's even possible? How are we to know that it's possible to have someone who shows up for you, for himself and his own spiritual path first, and then show up for you? And I think this is really where I want to drop in a little bit into our personal experience about what that takes to know. Because if you don't have the knowledge, it's like you can't even envision it or create it in your mind. So it's like, it's like it's in the mind first, It's your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. So if we as women take action as though we feel and know that a man or a partner like this is possible in our experience, then it is. It comes into fruition. They arrive as a reflection of our knowing. Íse and I came together because he was a reflection of my knowing that I was worthy when I had not been worthy before, and I did not treat myself as worthy before. And I put up with so much. I looked the other way. I did not honor my intuition. I was denigrated. I was ignored. I was beyond unsupported. I was the antithesis of support. I experienced that. And so it took me and my mind and my shifting of, what was possible to see before I could feel it. And then it came into actual physical form.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love you.
I love you too. It's that twin flame, girl. It's that twin flame. Our story began when our souls began. And so we entered a beautiful space in which we were learning and teaching. He was protecting me. I was channeling an ancient Kemet. He actually took a knife for me because somebody didn't like what I was channeling. The wisdom that was coming through.
They can be hard truths coming through the
Sometimes
channels that we do.
Yeah. So there were hard truths coming through, and somebody went to stab me, and Íse took the knife, and I nursed him back to health and held him. And, we as ancient lovers have gone through a myriad of lifetimes. And then it came to a point where we were actually divided because of a choice that I made. And basically, shall I go into it? It's the time, right? Let's drop in.
Yeah.
Let's do it. We had a child, and in this lifetime of ours, our child passed due to an illness. And in my selfishness and in my grief, I actually took my life. And when that happened, it basically shattered Íse's soul. He and I were then almost instantly divided, and I couldn't reach him from the non-physical.
After that happened in that lifetime, I literally never wanted anything to do with her, because there's nothing in my experience just yet that was worse than your twin flame, what we call also our soul signature,
other half of your soul,
leaving you or betraying you. You're in this creative life together, you're doing the work, and then they will kill themselves. Your child dies, and then you're left to live this life of torture for 40 plus years by yourself, knowing that you can't kill yourself because you know that you can't do that. And then knowing that you have to stay and manage and negotiate. So I was like done. So we have many, many lifetimes of us being separate.
And so what happens, and this is for any of the listeners now, what happens with a suicide cycle is you'll enter a suicide cycle, and then essentially every lifetime you will be presented with similar situations that will cause you to want to take your life. And the more that you do it, the harder it gets. And it just compounds and compounds with every single lifetime. So in this lifetime, I needed to enter the human experience, the child of a single mom who is experiencing challenges with addiction. Essentially, I entered the body and was assaulted very, very early on in my infancy by a couple of her boyfriends, all in like drug stupors, things like that. So essentially, I had to experience this lifetime of isolation and abandonment and pain, and essentially not being protected for roughly 42 years in order to balance all of the years that Íse was alone after I left him. And so it came to a culminating break when my first husband was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And in the 2 years, almost a year and a half, almost 2 years between his diagnosis and his crossing over, I was back in the space of caring for him and taking care of him. And when he crossed, it was so many things were coming up. There was all kinds of trauma. There was abandonment trauma, betrayal trauma, the trauma of my marriage falling apart, the trauma of my husband dying in my arms. All of these pieces were happening. But what made it beyond intense was that as he was crossing over, Spirit spoke to me and said, this is your son. This was the son that passed. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In the original lifetime.
In the original
lifetime. Where she took her life and then she left me.
So it was like a death of my marriage, my husband, and my child, 3 in 1. And I needed to move through that and basically piece together my heart. And he came through the very first night after he crossed. And as a medium, he began, communicating with me instantly. And he was the one who said to me, days would go by, he would speak to me every day. And I have hundreds of pages written down, of all of the messages that he was delivering. He was the one who said, you are going to marry again, and it will be soon, and people will judge you, and he will love the children as though they are his own. He will walk in and he will support you. It will be a blessed reunion. It will be this, it will be that. You shattered his heart. You had to pay it back. This and this and this. He is divine. He will be on his own spiritual path. You've met him before. You've loved him for years. Like all of I'm getting information from him, from my first husband who passed, telling me everything about the husband that's to come. So in my mind, Shanna, I knew there was a man who would support me despite all of these things that I thought were wrong, despite this like sexual trauma that I had from being assaulted as a baby. All of those pieces, all of those places where I felt small and tiny and broken and ashamed. My first husband was saying, I couldn't love you and support you the way that you needed, but guess what? He will. So I knew without a shadow of a doubt he was on his way. And then 6 months after my first husband passed,
we started getting into the trauma work, and we started confronting each other and having like hundreds of ceremonies and crying and crying and crying. People think that twin flames and stuff is all beautiful. Yes, it can, but you got to like work for it. You got to excavate all that beauty because your twin flame was there since the very beginning. So, the stuff that needs to go is all the trauma. So like, that's the person that was there. So they're going to help you get it out. I mean, that's really what we continue to do. But like that first year and a half was, over 100 of ceremonies and confrontations and looking at things and tears and purging and balancing and speaking our truths and learning how to get this flowing again and allowing rebuilding the trust and allowing this person to see things and exposing things and revealing everything so that we could have that intrinsic trust. Because when the divine feminine unites and combines and forges itself with the divine masculine, this connection is unassailable. Yin and yang, there's nothing that assails yin and yang unless they're divided. Once they're forged again together, they're unassailable. Nothing can rise above that. So that has to be that trust and that respect and that honor and that protection between the two.
This is so beautiful. This is like, there should be a movie about this.
It's on the list of things to do for sure.
Maybe one day there will be. Maybe there will be.
Well, the funny thing is, okay, so this is the very human part of it, Shanna. So we actually, it was so interesting because when my first husband was telling me, he's like, you've met him before, you've loved him for years. I was like, what's he talking about? I was like, oh, I didn't even, because Spirit wanted it to be organic, wanted it to kind of come up. But I had moved back to LA, I think about 2 or 3 months after my first husband passed. And my girlfriend says to me, I want you to have dinner with this friend of mine. He is a weirdo just like you. End quote. And I'm like, okay, all right. And she says his name. She said Kiko at the time. And I remembered all of a sudden, just everything just went.
Because we actually met in 2018 randomly in a Ralph's parking lot. We saw it. Spirit does these things, right? We just met each other. That's when she was actually married. And we talked in the parking lot for like 15 minutes. And I remember getting her number, full respect, because I knew she was married. And I remember I entered her phone number into my phone as her name at that time was Amber. So I said it was Amber. I entered Amber, Indigo, who's her daughter, and Troy with a 2 next to it because it was little Troy the son and big Troy the husband. I entered the entire family's name in there because that's how I was training my brain to think about her with the respect that she's a family woman. Even though I thought she was beautiful and radiant, all that stuff. And then we didn't see each other again for 4 years until our mutual friend got us together again.
Yeah. And we met and we were just like dancing in the parking lot because I'm a screenwriter. He's a producer and actor. And we're both inspirational speakers. You know, all of these pieces were just like, we were just really in the humble beginnings of the Ralph's parking lot, just kind of dancing with each other, just connecting, as, you know, Issei calls it, in that agape love. And so when our friend brought us together to have dinner, in the first 20 minutes, I was still just kind of bruised, very much in my masculine, had been on my own, had been, you know, had moved my family across the country for my first husband's cancer treatment and moved us again into a house that was 1 story because he couldn't go upstairs anymore, and moved us back across the country. And I was very like brusque and
all that like led us to working through all this like trauma, and then finding out, oh my God, we actually we have this work together, we have this mission together, we have this healing work together. We both, you know, have on the plant medicine journey. We're both healers, we're both shamans, we're both, you know, speakers, we both love inspiring people. We started bringing together naturally our modalities, and now we actually hold 1 to 2 day workshops for men and women in co-ed that's called the Divine Channeling Experience, where I bring my work together, she brings her work together with the channeling, and we create these transformational experiences for men and women and trainings and corporate and stuff like that, private groups, all sorts of things. So, but I hadn't had an idea. We had no idea
no idea.
Yeah.
And I was so, at the time, I was still so, as I mentioned earlier, you know, with the channeling, I was very like, oh, I don't know if I can. And he's like, let's go, like, bring it.
Mind you, when our friend got us together in 2022 at her house for the reunion, if you will, when she was masculine and whatnot, literally like 45 minutes into that reunion at our friend's house, we sat down. Like I got her out of her masculine by literally said, you know, I took her from the kitchen and I said, hey, can we go over here? And I took her hand, I took her to the living room and I said, would you like to sit down, you know, on the ground? I got her a pillow because I wanted to sit down on the ground, cross-legged, that whole deal. And so I took the lead as the masculine. I created the safe space for her and I laid it out, and she kind of fell into her feminine. 45 minutes into it, like she was channeling the Hopi Brothers, because she channels the Hopi Native American Indian men. She channels the Divine Feminine Collective, and she channels the Starseed Support Unit. So, but that day when we got reconnected the first time, she channeled the Hopi Brothers, and she was making all these faces and trying to hold them back because she was still embarrassed.
Yeah.
She hadn't had support and nothing like that. But mind you, I love it. I love, you know, this thing. My first wife was a medium. She's channeled a little bit, but didn't really like it, but she did more medium stuff. And so they started coming through and she was holding them back. I'm like, look, the Hopi Brothers, they obviously want to say something to me. They got something to say. They coming through. Like, let them talk. I want to hear what the fuck they got to say. Forget you. Like, what are my brothers going to say to me? So she started channeling right there. Kids running around the house, you know, the couple there. And she was channeling the Hopi right there on the ground on our first date, so to speak.
Yeah.
And now we have support with these events, putting together these events, these workshops, where like our last one, we have events specifically for men, and we do it like usually with a smaller group, so each man can get individualized attention from the Hopi Brothers. So we usually do like 14 to 20 men max, you know, with guys. And we'll do these workshops, these 1 to 2 day workshops where we take men through my vast experience with like artistry and Kundalini yoga as a teacher. I take them through these experiences that really loosen up and expand their physical vessel, their mental vessel, their voice, their breath work, their body, to get their body actually primed for this deep wisdom from beyond the veil. So we get them really, really warmed up, and there's just breakthroughs from that alone, because a lot of these men don't even move their bodies. They don't even like use their voice, because there's no safe space out there to just yell like a lion on the top of the mountain. You know, these safe spaces have to be created. So I do this sort of, and we do breath work, I do movement work and stuff like that. So I lead the way with that. And then that gets them really, really primed and ready to receive this deep wisdom. And then we actually move into like the channel. And then that's for the next, you know, maybe a couple of hours. And these men are receiving this deep wisdom as a group, and then individual for the ones that actually have that sort of, you know, either courage or want to actually look at things in their life or ask questions. You know, they have the opportunity to really be looked at the deepest level, so they can clear and actually rise to their higher selves, and like have like, you know, this energy look at them and say, hey, look at this area right here, and do you want our support? And they can say no if they want, and they can say yes. I don't think one man has really said no, maybe one, but then he even ended up turning it into a yes.
Yeah, and so he ended up a yes.
Turning it into a lesson, because sometimes it's scary. It can be scary stuff. Sometimes it's stuff that we haven't seen since we were a little boy, and we've never had the container to actually, you know, look at these things and to go through it. And these men, we have these breakthroughs, and then connection with the brothers, and the brotherhood medicine just in and of itself is very, very healing. So yeah, we hold those events for largely like men, but we also hold like these for women as well, because women need that same support. And then we also hold it for like healers and people that support others with the Starseed support unit as well. So
yeah, the Starseed support unit is, you know, just to speak to who they are. The Hopi Brothers are my brothers. They are from a previous lifetime. Now, I mean, all time exists at the same time. So they are my brothers. And I always joke, they kind of joked and called Ise one time, they're like, you're our brother and also our brother-in-law, which is kind of fun. They come through, and there's such beautiful indigenous wisdom that comes, you know, through their guidance, and what it means to be a man, and what that means is so beyond what the current modern day definition would have us think. You know, to be a man is to be righteous, is to be the protector, is to be so truly aligned with his own path, and to heal that little boy, and to love himself, and to forgive himself, and at the same time know that there's nothing to be forgiven, because everything is all a divine choice. It's all a divine choice for the express purpose of evolving our soul. So when we get to work with these men and tell them and show them and infuse in them the divine mother love, that's another aspect besides the Hopi Brothers, you know, the divine mother, she comes through. And so I get to serve in that way where I'm able to connect with each of the men as the divine loving mother, and give them each like a little piece about what they need from their childhood that needs to be healed, so that they can truly rise into the king that they are now, that they're becoming, that they're, you know, beginning to embody for some for the very first time.
Oh my God, I'm absolutely, so I'm a sucker for love stories. I'm just, are you still melting? Oh my God. Wait, you know what's funny is that on your website, you say, Powher, Powher, love that.
Yeah.
But I didn't have my glasses on, which I can't see very well as I get older. But I accidentally read something wrong. I thought on your website it said boys to men, but it said boys and men. But then I was thinking to myself, the boys to men. And then as you guys were just sitting here talking, you know that song End of the Road, where I pulled up the lyrics, we belong together, right? I don't have no time for you to be playing with my heart like this. You'll be mine forever. You just wait. We belong together. You know, I'm right. I'm like got love songs going on in my head. I'm like so in love.
Why do you play with my mind? Remember that?
My favorite. Oh my God. Said we'd be forever. Said it'd never die. How could you love me and leave me and never say goodbye? And then, of course, it gets better. But I got goosebumps all over. Yep. I also remember, what about that Boys to Men, ABC, BBD, the East Coast Family?
Oh, yeah, taking it back.
Going on. Da, 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 da. It's really beautiful because, and even for me, as you know, and you're in your experience too now of discovering who the divine feminine really is. And the divine feminine is, the divine feminine collective is multiple female ascended female masters, goddess energy. There's part of the divine feminine collective that is the original African mothers. They are a part of them. The very first time they came through, it was like a parade. I was on the phone with him.
Yeah.
Listen, Queen, there were these women and they were explosive. And so I'll usually, if Ise is not at the home or if I'm just on the phone or I'm doing channels by myself, I'll go in the garage because they can get so loud. And I was like, wait a second, there's somebody coming through. I've never worked with this energy before and they're coming. I'm like, I gotta go. And as soon as they started coming through, I was moving, I was dancing. They were so explosive with this divine feminine power. And, it's like we now are realizing it's all been a lie. I think of that book, The Chalice and the Blade. The chalice is now coming back into equal balance because we are now as women, as the divine feminine, knowing that we are needed. Our guidance is needed. Our wisdom is needed. The little pieces of information that we're picking up, the storytelling, it's all to be revered. And there's nothing better than my king, Ise, my husband, saying, hey, babe, let's drop into a channel and see if we can, let's get some information or, we could get some. I'm like, okay.
This is like, well, I'll just tap on the African mothers. I had never experienced that sort of ancient female power and wisdom. But as soon as I did, I got it. I got why in ancient times they wanted to eradicate that power, the insecure man or the heartless man. I got that because it's really powerful. I mean, the entire time that she was on the phone, I was on the phone. I was just like smiling. I'm like being filled with their energy. It's radiant. It's powerful. It's moving. It's commanding. It's not this whole soft goddess energy and flowing. No. And there's nothing wrong with that at all either. But what's needed in this world is that Kali. That Kali. You see that ancient goddess Kali, and she's got the head of a man and she's got her tongue out like that. It's that energy. And that's what's actually needed, the women to start, like you said earlier, the imbalance of energy, women to start reclaiming their space, to taking up their space, and actually to release, apologizing for being feminine, for being female, apologizing for taking up too much space. Because what happens is women have been suppressed and trained to shrink their energy, to shrink their energy, to not be too sexual, to not be too outspoken, to not take up too much space, to not be too intuitive, to not be too psychic or too much of an oracle, or not to, because you might get killed, right? But that's that energy, that guidance is needed. That deep wisdom is needed. And once you women, you females, because we teach them at a young age, right? Once you females start really claiming your space and taking up your space, that creates an energetic balance on the planet by default. Two energies can't occupy the same space at the same time. You recoil from the space, toxic masculinity can take up that space. You recoil from the space, or masculinity is going to learn how to hold space, because it's our job as masculine to remember how to hold that protective space. Like I always say to her, we protect you from the outside in, you protect us from the inside out. Our job, our task as the divine masculine, healthy masculine, that sacred masculine, that traditional, if you will, masculine is a very healthy thing. We're learning right now how to hold space again so that you can take up your proper space. We're holding that space from the physical realm, that exterior world, so that you can start to take that space up. And yes, you give us guidance from the interior world. Masters of the outer world, we are masters of the inner world. You are. Together, we're unassailable. So having that connection, having that balance, when women start to reclaim their space again, energetically reclaim their voice, reclaim their physical space. That's when I was teaching years, and we're going to do it again as well, of female martial arts, female self-defense, female offense, female empowerment work, all that vocal work. The main lesson really was reclaiming your space. Sometimes you need to reclaim it physically, but the first thing is reclaiming your intuition. Reclaiming your intuition, because that is number one and foremost, the thing that everyone, I believe, and you've been endowed with, is that feminine intuition, which is the sword, it's the shield, it's the guidance, it's the compass, it's the everything. And females learning how to reclaim and trust that, to know what that sound, that intuition, to trust it, to guide it, let it guide you, and take action on every single time. So, and then we can come back into actual energetic balance on this planet. You taking up that space again, because it's yours. That's the first thing I taught our daughter.
And learning how to trust your discernment in your body again. Because for women, we've been looking to doctors to tell us what to do with our children or what to do when we're pregnant, reading books that men wrote about, how to breastfeed or how to, what to expect when you're expecting. And it's like, instead of just trusting your own instincts, your intuition, like you said. Another thing, I feel like that toxic feminine energy also had to move through and grow through, was also that lack of sisterhood. It turned into competition for women, having to fight over position, the sisterhood that's been missing for so long. I mean, I know I feel it for you right now, Isis, because we're open and we're connected with that. And so we can connect with each other in this space that really wasn't available before.
Well, I can look at you, and now that I'm in this space for me, I'm looking at you and I see a beautiful woman. I see a goddess mother, and I see a healer and a wisdom keeper. And I see that because I see it for myself first. That's the piece. Because if we as women can heal, and this is still, I'm still a work in progress, of course, but to know myself as valid, as strong, as beautiful, as sexual, as powerful, means that I can look at other beautiful, strong, powerful, sexual women, and say, glory be to you, my sister. And that's, like I said, it's always going to be that consistent process and that evolution. But as more and more women are able to say, I see you because I can see myself. And so that competition, it melts away. It melts away. I'm happy for your gifts because I'm happy for mine. So if we see that for ourselves, then it's just easy. It's so simple. And we get to celebrate it in our sisters immediately.
You guys are so balanced and aligned. I mean, it's beautiful freaking way.
It's really funny that, I mean, we joke too, because we'll be out and about, whether it's like a festival, because now there's 3 children between us. So, we'll have multiple events or concerts or, performances or things that we'll go to for our kids. And inevitably, someone will ask to take a picture of us. Wow. And we laugh about that because, we're like, yeah, we're very much in tune. We're very much in love. But like just a couple nights ago, we were like, trauma, we got to heal this. And he might have been holding me. Like there's been times where I've gone back into that and the whole, this is another podcast altogether, but the way he supported me in my most recent ayahuasca ceremony, which was my third time in Peru, he held the space for my soul to be essentially just taken down to ground zero and then built back up. And in so many ways where that trauma's tried to come back, we have just been like, nope, it's not happening. He's held me. I've been that 6-month-old baby all over again in his arms. And he's telling me, you're safe. You're safe. I'm here. I love you. And when those little pieces have come out where I'm like, you know, when the dragon energy goes shadow, right? And it's like, and I'm like hissing, he said, hey, come here. Come here. And he's gotten so masterful at just loving me in the places that I couldn't even love myself. And, you know, that's because he's done the work. And
well, and let me jump in before you get too far.
Sure.
And she'll constantly holds my little boy and affirms things that I never heard in my psyche as a young boy, so I can actually heal my mind, you know, because we're continually healing our mind. And she is so, you know, masterful about being tuned in to what I need to hear as a boy, as a man, so I can actually build myself up properly here, my mind and my spine, so that I can build for us with my penetrative masculine energy, so I can go out and do this. She helps me build myself here. And then we also, we mother and we father each other. That's the beautiful thing about this. Many people have never really experienced the divine father energy. Most people, in my humble opinion, have never experienced the divine mother energy. We've experienced mothers and fathers and, you know, trauma and ego and pains and parents that have all these issues. And we've experienced lineages that have alcoholism and drugs and this, that, and sexual abuse. And that energy comes down the lineage. We've experienced all that stuff, but none of that is the lineage of the divine mother and the divine father. So many of us have only really experienced toxic masculinity and toxic femininity and all this, you know, violent and abusive energy. And I didn't even experience true, healed enough, healthy, balanced, loving, firm, masculine energy until I was 48. I didn't experience it until I was 48. And what I've come to realize, and this is through we had an actual retreat with a lot of men, and we actually held a keynote about this, a workshop about this too, is that when you're in this line of work and healing and ascension and awakening and enlightenment, whenever you want to call it, rising, and the conversation of the divine masculine, the man who fathered me was 4 years younger than me, a friend of mine in Latin. He wasn't my father. That's the beauty of this. When you're able to tap into this divine energy, whether it be divine mother energy or divine father energy, right? That divine mother and father, everything is that polar. It's the negative, the positive. It's the sun energy or the moon energy, whatever you want to call it. It's just sun and moon. It's just negative, positive. It's just black and white. When you're able to tap into that divine father energy or that divine mother energy, you can actually give it to anyone. It doesn't even matter. It can be, you know, her children that are not my biological children, and I can actually give them pure father love. It can be her, who's my wife, but her child in there needs the divine father love, and I can father her this sort of energy that she never got, but I can give it to her now and heal that child, because like she said, all timelines exist at the same time, and we can heal that literally right now. She can heal my little boy and give me things that I've never heard right now, and actually allow ourselves to be freed up so we can actually continue to ascend. And it's really miraculous. It's really miraculous.
And all it is going back to the divine source of that agape love that you're connecting and remembering. I think it's just so beautiful.
Yeah.
You guys are so fortunate to have met again in this life.
We needed to reconnect in this life to heal it had to be this plane because we've moved through many different dimensions, many different planes of existence in the energy of being the soul signature. You know, the soul, when the soul splits apart, there is one half that has a predominantly masculine experience and one that has a predominantly feminine experience. So we've woven in and out through multiple lifetimes, multiple planes of existence, but the fracturing and the division happened here on Earth, which I'm sure everyone is familiar with, is the most challenging dimension, the most challenging place in the universe, energetically, low vibrational, all of that. It's here, it's Earth. So because that's where we were divided, this was the space where we had to come back to be united once again.
So that we could do our work. And contribute to the elevation of this planet. We're contributing, like you're contributing, like we're all contributing to the elevation of this planet, this Mother Earth, so we can continue to ascend. So, yeah.
This is the remastered, beautiful story of like Romeo and Juliet with a totally different ending.
I love that.
Seriously, this is like some freaking Shakespeare shit. I love you guys so much. This is so
I love you too, sister.
I love you.
I do.
Thank you for seeing this and inviting us to be a part of this experience with you. And thank you for cultivating and curating the space where these kinds of conversations can permeate the vibration of those who are ready to listen and are ready to hear and are ready to reach and rise for their own path that will fulfill them on all of the levels. I've never felt so fulfilled being able to do this work beside Ise.
And I want to say something you just said about it gives you hope. It is the only way forward. It's just so important for people to know that not only is it possible or that it gives you hope, but it's actually inevitable. It's the only way forward. Imbalance is not going to carry us forward. Toxicity is not going to carry us forward. It is imperative for women to start having this, to conceive immaculately in their mind that there is the divine man archetype and he exists and he's real and he loves me and he protects me and he honors me and he creates space for me and he listens to me and he hears my guidance and he honors and he reveres and he cherishes me and he fights for me and he stands for me. He does all these things and leads properly. And I want to follow him. There is that type of divine man out there. And that actually is the only way forward, regardless of what I see before me, regardless of what I see in my past, regardless of the men I'm dating. You might have to sacrifice and stop dating for a while. And to start getting clear about this in the mind, that this man, this divine man, that he actually exists in the mind. And once he's conceived here, once he's really conceived, you'll start to experience him out here. And the same for the man, that there is this divine woman who respects herself and that she's able to, give this deep guidance and that you actually want to listen to her. And she's creative and she's sexual and she's powerful and she's intuitive and she knows and sees your blind spots and you want to reveal yourself to her. Like there is that woman that you want to trust, you want to treat, you want to give her the keys to your kingdom, you want to build more than there is that. So once we actually conceive it here, that immaculate, that pure, divine relation, that precedes that anything sexual or anything earthly, like one of my, mentors said, it's divinity before humanity. Once we conceive that divine archetype for each other up here, and then that is what's going to leave us for. It's inevitable. It's the only way forward. This world is in the middle of collapsing. It's complete and utter chaos and tyranny right now. It's going that way. And balance has to be restored for a certain period of time until it heals. So that's where I believe we're at right now. It is that aspect.
That co-creating again, and you guys are doing together with helping people together. And you guys are you writing a book together as well?
Yeah. The divine love. Yep. About divine love. So that's a lot of our lived experience and really sort of like putting in book form what we've just been saying about the nature of this relation and like what it takes to find that divine love of self, and that it's possible, and that, you know, what that looks like when you start to intermingle and together and really creating that and that flow as divine love, and to let people know that it's possible. And this is, you know, what it flows, and you can actually build and you can go beyond. It's
not exactly like this picture perfect situation, because you will fall in love with, as we did, we were, it wasn't even like we were falling in love. It's just, this love was so present. And in that space of love, then we could heal everything.
And when something comes up, it's a duty that we owe to ourselves, a responsibility to ourselves to speak our truth. And if something's out of alignment, then to speak it. Or if we're picking up something with the other person, we owe ourselves and that other person, well, this is what I'm noticing, and figure out how to say it in the healthiest way possible. So now we've gotten to the point where we can say things, there's very little triggers, the other person can receive it, even if it's some really tough reflections back to the person's communication between us is so, you know, imperative between all of us. It's just imperative that we have the space to communicate our truth. That was one of the first things before we even got romantic, was I wanted to hear her voice. I wanted to make sure I heard her opinion and receive her needs and desires.
I'm totally in love with you guys.
We're in love with ourselves. We're in love with each other. We're in love with you. We're in love with life. We love you. Thank you. Thank you so much for allowing us to have this exploration with you, my sisters. It's really, truly beautiful.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad you guys joined me. I'd love to have you guys on. We'll redo this in about 20 years so we can see where you're at.
Thank you, Shannon.
Oh, you're very welcome, Isis. I'm so glad that I got to meet you. You're just beautiful. Do you guys work also individually?
Yeah,
like if
absolutely.
someone wanted to work with you, where can they go and where can they work with you?
Well, they can go to her website,
isisinspires.com.
and that's where you can work with her individually. And you can also work with us from there too, because sometimes she'll do channels, but like our work together is the divine channeling experience, where we get to really bring our work, our life, our experience all together. And that's largely where my investment is. There was a time in our relation where I really realized that her work was my work, and then it started interweaving together. So you can find also me there as well, isisinspires.com, and my website is linked to there. But really, really our work is that right there. And my website is Iseluleko.com if anyone wants to check that out.
Thank you guys so much for joining me. Isis, so nice to meet you. And thank you so much for coming back on, Ise. I really appreciate you both so much.
Beautiful to meet you too, sister. Have a glorious day, Queen.
We love you too, my sister. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Sense of Soul podcast. And thanks to our special guests for joining me. If you want more of Sense of Soul, check out my website at www.mysenseofsoul.com, where you can work with me one-on-one or help support Sense of Soul podcast by donating to my coffee fund. Thanks for listening.